Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's pre-market prep, brought to you by MarketFi. I'm your co-host Joel Alconin, along with Brianna Velasquez, going to be helping me out on this interview. And we have Dave Landry, trader and founder at DaveLandry.com. Dave, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was fantastic. Glad to see the family and glad to see him go.
I was going to say, were they glad to see you?
Well, I hope so. At least I'd like to think so.
Okay, so let's just go back here to Friday, and holy smokes, did we have some crazy action in Friday in the crude oil market, in the commodities markets, and this spilled over to big rally in the airline sector. I mean, what do you think about that? Is there any possible market manipulation here?
Yeah, I think so, Joel. I mean, I hate the day after Thanksgiving. It's usually thin and choppy, and usually nothing happens. When you see moves like that, you just have to wonder if there's some manipulation going on, taking advantage of the thin and choppy trading. Like I wrote in today's column, it's like the mice played while the cat was away a little bit. So I wouldn't get too wrapped up in the action, but prices are prices, and if you got stopped out, then you got stopped out, and you just have to honor to stop your stops in a situation like that, even if you do think that it might be a little bit manipulated.
So, who are the manipulators in your opinion? Is it the individual traders, the high frequency traders, the big banks, the big hedge funds, or just a conglomeration of all of them?
Yeah, I think a little bit of all of the above, but obviously it's somebody with a little bit more size, and you can't get too caught up in it. It's like I recognize that it happened, and you just have to kind of shrug it off and live with it. It doesn't matter who or what. You just take a look at price, and then hopefully, if you're on the wrong side of it, then nobody's bigger than the markets longer term. So hopefully the prices come back in if you're not stopped out in the process. But you do, like I said, you have to honor your stops just in case you got to get out the way.
Yeah, and some of these issues, I did notice that it was a little bit thinner, lack of liquidity, but some of these issues, even though it was an abbreviated session, they still had some pretty good volume.
Yeah, I mean, well, take a look at the Russell 2000. That's got me a little concerned. It was down 1.5%. That's a sizable move. Now, a few of those stocks are energy stocks, but it wasn't just the energies that dragged it down. So that's a little bit concerning. But S&P and Nasdaq acted like they should on a pre post holiday trading, just kind of bumping along in here.
Okay. I mean, the market, I mean, I guess it's best to characterize this market is that it refuses to correct. I mean, all
Yes.
these dips and pullbacks and everything is buy the dippers and been rewarded. Big reward back in October. I mean, is this a healthy scenario for the market?
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody's all the professionals at least are saying the same thing. It's just amazing that this market really hasn't corrected much. And one of the dynamics they're throwing out is the fact that we haven't closed below the 5-day moving average in 30 days. And I haven't gone back too far just yet, but I know that hasn't happened at least in my memory. So it's probably at least 10 years or more since that type of action has happened. So it seems like a market that refuses to correct. Longer term, you just mentioned about the dips. Longer term, that concerns me a little bit because it seems like every time we have what appears to be a bona fide rollover, the market goes straight back up. And I think one of these times it's not going to happen. But as a trend follower, if this thing just keeps edging higher, I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to follow along, but I'm going to have some stops in place just in case.
Okay, got to talk about the move in oil and its effect on the stocks in the oil sector. Just been getting beat up lately here, and it seems like when the crude rebounds a little bit, these things rebound a little bit. Can you take a stock like ExxonMobil? I mean, we know it's a big holding of a Warren Buffett and pays a nice dividend. I mean, is it attracting any of your interest here at alongside this $90 level? Big gap down on Friday. Do you think this thing's going to stabilize, regardless of what happens to crude oil prices?
Well, first of all, it's hard to make for me as a trend follower playing more speculative issues. It's hard for me to make money at something like Exxon that's big and thick stock like that, big capitalization stock. But with that said, it's gapped down in here, and it looks like for now, it looks like it's headed down to test its old low. So I certainly wouldn't be a bottom fisher in here. And gold stocks and silver stocks have been the same thing too. A lot of people have been trying to bottom fish there, and then it just keeps making a new bottom and keeps making new lows. So I would prefer to wait for a bona fide trend or at least a new emerging trend in these weak areas before getting too excited.
Okay, we haven't talked about much about the momentum stocks on today's show, so we'll just go into those a little bit with you. I guess don't know where to put Apple. I guess it's a value growth momentum stock here.
Yeah.
What a tremendous run in Apple. Made a new all-time high a few days ago at 119.75. Really refuses, like you made a good point there about the market refuses to correct. How about a stock like Apple? I mean, this thing it doesn't spend much time in the red. I think there was one
Yeah.
day I mentioned. I noticed one day last week. I think it had a string of 11 consecutive new all-time highs in 11 sessions. How unusual is that?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Apple's one, like you said, it just continues to defy gravity. One has to wonder how far it can go. I mean, on pullbacks, as a trend follower, I have to be inclined to take a look at it to see if there's anything worth trading there. But one has to wonder how long can Apple sustain this parabolic up move that it's been in. So I think Apple's a little dangerous, but it's one of those, I guess, cult stocks is the way to put it. It just tends to go up, and I'm certainly not going to try to short it and be a hero in here.
Okay, how about a stock like Twitter here that definitely took a haircut after earnings, and you just have a lot of just seesaw action here. You see this as a consolidation here to build a foundation for a nice rally, or another leg down here for Twitter.
I think possibly another leg in here down. I like what you said about the seesaw action. The problem with Twitter now is with the gap down, you've got a lot of trading between 48 and 55. So there's a lot of people that bought during that range, and that's considered overhead supply. There's nothing magical about the way I look at the technicals. I just try to see which way the trend is and see where the support and resistance is. So I think it's going to have a harder time getting through that resistance. Looks like the path of least resistance, at least for now, is going to be sideways to lower. But I don't have any specific setups that are triggering in Twitter right now.
Okay, how about I know it's a higher price stock here, but boy, Google has just seemed to have been quiet here. I did that. It did the split back in April. There really hasn't been much in the news. It has missed earnings the last couple quarters, but really doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I'm looking at basis the goo GEOG, and I'm looking at last 4 days of ranges here. Pretty similar here. Any setups you're seeing in Google?
No, Google's kind of sideways as of late, and then like the aforementioned Twitter, it too has a lot of overhead resistance or supply, sometimes I call it. So it's going to have a hard time getting much above 560 for quite a while. So I don't think we'll see new highs in Google, at least not in the short term for quite a while in here due to all the overhead supply.
Yeah, our buddy Harlan Pine is piping in here, and he says Apple's 13.3% of the Nasdaq. What's going to happen to that Nasdaq when and if Apple ever pulls back?
Yeah, and that's a big concern. And then at one point, it was even more than that. And they keep rebalancing the Nasdaq or the Nasdaq 100 to reflect that. But yeah, that's gonna put a big. I mean, that could be the canary in the coal mine. It's when Apple cracks, then it could pull down a lot of people and a lot of indices. And you're right. It's probably a good idea to keep that Apple on your radar just in case.
Okay, how about the new darling of Wall Street? Alibaba had the IPO well above its expected range. Did pull back nowhere near that $65, $66 level. The original pricing had the nice run up to 120. Little bit of a pullback. I mean, a lot of people characterize this stock as just one that you just have to put in your portfolio and forget about it. It's going to be a winner. Do you characterize it that same way as well?
Well, if you confuse the issue with facts here, it's pretty scary because the capitalization is bigger than somebody said Boeing or something like that. Just it's ridiculous, whatever it is. But as a trade follower, I think if it gets above 115, let's say 116 or so, I think it would be a buy. But unless it does, right now, shorter term, it looks like it's stalling out in its pullback, and it doesn't look like it's going to go in to make new highs. But it's definitely a very volatile stock, and it's not for the weak at heart to trade. But I would say anything above 115 and Bob, at least over the next week or so, would be a buy. If it doesn't get there within, let's say, a week, I would leave it alone.
Okay, and another Wall Street darling this year, GoPro. Had a
Yeah.
nice run up, pulled back, had a secondary at that $75 level. That provided a little bit of resistance. Now we're above that. Seems like those cameras are just flying off the shelves here from the reports that we're getting. Can you give us a shorter term and longer term outlook for
Well,
GoPro?
yeah, GoPro is known as camera on a stick, and if you confuse the issue with Faxera, you have to wonder how exciting is a camera on a stick. But it is kind of neat. I have to agree. Uh, right now, it's sticking to the technicals, wide and loose and sideways. I think it looks like the run is done there. It ran from 40 to 90. It was a good little run. Had a little pullback about halfway through, which is a good place to get on, and obviously it rallied significantly from its opening day. But right now it's been wide and loose, Joel, for about 3 months in here. And as a trend follower, if you draw a sideways line, there is no trend. It's just sideways at this point in time. So I would avoid that one for now, and I think I would just start keeping an eye out to see if any of these other IPOs in here begin to follow through.
Yeah, boy, what a year for IPOs in the
Oh,
market. I
absolutely.
mean, I think overall, I mean, some people say that may be symptomatic of a top, but certainly no top in the market. With all these stocks being bought back through share repurchase programs, it's really limiting the supply. It seems like these IPOs are what is attracting the new money. So we'll have to keep an eye on those. So another trend we've noticed is the move into your value stocks. Berkshire Hathaway chugging away every day, making new all-time highs. Your Procter and Gamble's, your Johnson and Johnson's is the value stocks and the safe are those the safe stocks and the place to be in 2015.
Well, I don't think there is any safe place to be ever in the markets, and I'm not a big fan of the value stocks like that. But it is kind of amazing that food and beverage and some of these more defensive issues have also been making new highs in here. Those stocks don't tend to move around enough for me. One thing that makes me feel pretty good is that some of the go-go stocks and like the semiconductors have made new highs on Friday and have been making new highs as of late, and biotech and also drugs and all have been doing well. Unfortunately, what does good one year, I think, as you are alluding to, doesn't mean it's going to do good in the following year. So I'm going to continue to follow the trend in semiconductors and biotech and stocks like that. And then next year we'll just have to wait and see how things shake out. And if the value stocks continue higher, then I hate to say it, but I might be forced into those.
Some of those, huh? Okay,
Yeah.
before I let you go, I know a familiar strategy is to identify stocks that just may get beat up in the month of December because of end of year tax loss selling. People just writing it off the books. Is there anything on your radar here that may be going into that cycle and maybe something to keep an eye on for 2015?
No, right now there's nothing particular that fits that exactly for the end of the year selling. I'm just going to keep an eye on some of these go-go areas that have been doing well in here, like the drugs and biotech and semis that I just mentioned. In 2015, though, I think that I'm not a big fan of bottom fishing, but I would, if I had to make a prediction, and again, predictions are, as Yogi said, predictions are tough, especially about the future, and you really can't predict that far out. But if I was forced to make a prediction, I would say that 2015 would be the year of gold, silver, and oil, and all of those areas, especially these commodity-related areas that got beat up really, really bad. And I think they'll bottom out. I don't know exactly when. I'm going to watch for it. But when they do bottom out, I'm going to be a big buyer of those areas. But I'm going to sit here and wait until that happens. And that might not happen until several months in or maybe even mid-year.
Okay, all right. We've had Dave Landry on the line. He is trader and founder at DaveLandry.com, going through the technicals on many of the stocks that he likes to follow, giving us an outlook for 2015. Dave, thanks a lot for coming on. Have a great trading day. We hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate you having me back on.